Hey gang, just want to drop in and plug a new favorite product of mine, Captain Spice Chai. If you've listened to this potty for a while, you will know that I am an absolute slut for a sticky chai, a good extra hot soy chai latte. That is my poison of choice. And I've become a little bit of a snob, a little bit of a connoisseur for sticky chai. So it's pretty cool that I think this is actually my first, I guess you could say, official sponsor of the podcast. They've sent me some free sticky chai and it's fucking great. I want to plug their stuff because I love supporting local family-owned business. It's a small family business. It's handcrafted, made in the Macedon Ranges, so in Victoria where I grew up. It's gluten-free and vegan, and they use coconut sugar, which I'm partial to because, you know, out of all of the sort of sweeteners, it's probably one of the more health-conscious, natural ways to make things sweet. They do wholesale to cafes. You can also buy their products online. They use 100% whole spices, no powders, nothing like that. It's all house roasted and ground. And I highly recommend you going and checking out their chai. I'll put the link to their website in the show notes. Thank you so much, Captain Spice, for your delightful chai and also for being such a treat to work with. You know, I don't know, just allow me to digress for a second, everyone, but it can be really hard to form relationships online, especially business to business, through like email correspondence. You know, it's difficult to feel the other human at the end of the computer, and I've just actually had a really lovely time chatting with the people over at Captain Spice. Every email feels like, oh, I'm actually interfacing with a real human here. And we're both on missions with our own small businesses. And yeah, I've just really enjoyed starting to get to know them and forming a business relationship. So if that sways you at all, I can vouch for them being legends. Anyway, that's it from me. Check out Captain Spice Chai, and I'll let you get into the episode now.
This program is brought to you by Pussy Magnets.
Put a ninja on your friends with a pussy magnet.
Welcome, my lovely lumps. Or maybe let's go with lovely labs. That's pretty on brand. Anyway, I'm so thrilled to have you here in the Labia Lounge. We're going to be yarning about all things sexuality, intimacy, womanhood, relating, holistic health, and everything in between. We're going to have vag loads of real chats with real people about real shit. So buckle up because you're about to receive the sex ed that you never had and hopefully have a bit of a chuckle while you're at it. Before we get stuck in, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. It's a massive privilege to be living and creating dope podcast content in Naarm, and I just want to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Now, if you're ready, let's flap and do this.
Don't panic, you're not broken. Your sex education was a piece of shit. Get your flaps out and pull up a couch. It's the Labia Lounge.
Hey gang, just before we jump into this episode, I wanted to offer you an opportunity to access my new mini course for free before I start charging for it in future. It's for people with vulvas and it's quick to complete. It's all about demystifying the female body and pleasure anatomy and getting some basic fundamentals to understand your body better. It's called Pussy Pleasure Secrets, Your Roadmap to Bedroom Bliss. You can grab it on the freebies page of my website or in the show notes. It's a great little free resource to kind of dip your toe in or act as a bit of a taster for my work. So if you've ever been curious about this sort of thing and you just don't know where to start, or you want a really quick, easy, accessible, non-threatening way to get the ball rolling and start working on this stuff, this is a great place to start. Hey Labial Legends, welcome back to the lounge. Today I have got with me Shel Norris, the founding executive director, and Drew Davis, the director of strategic initiatives of SafeBAE. SafeBAE is the only US national survivor-founded, youth-led organization working to prevent sexual violence among teens. They have both dedicated their careers to ending sexual violence and empowering youth activism. And I've already done a really incredibly special episode. I genuinely, it's one of my favorites. That's why I'm saying special. With Shel about a year ago maybe, and we were speaking about sexual violence prevention in schools and universities. That episode is, it's like nearly 2 hours long. It's super comprehensive. It's a really, really valuable resource, and I think every parent, every educator, basically every person with young folk in their life should listen to it to really bring themselves up to speed with what's actually going on in school environments and how to mitigate harm and how to support the young people around them. So definitely go back and listen to that episode. You can search up SafeBAE or Shale Norris or sexual violence prevention in schools, stuff like that, and you'll find it. But today, we've got Drew with us as well, and I'm super excited to be chatting with these guys because sometimes I get nervous before interviews, especially if I don't know the guest personally or whatever, but we've had a bit of contact over the last year, and I was just like excited to hang out with you two. We're going to be covering things from a different angle, and I want to talk about a new tool that these guys have created called Vibe Check. It's a free, anonymous reflection tool that helps young people navigate questions of consent, harm, accountability, and repair. It's an accessible, non-judgmental intervention grounded in the real contexts young people are navigating. It's for young people who think that they might have caused harm or violated someone's boundaries to have a place to go online where they can safely educate themselves. And I can't wait to hear how it's all been going since you've launched a few months ago. So welcome, Shel and Drew.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So before we launch into learning about Vibe Check, let's give a bit of a rundown on why SafeBAE exists and some current stats around sexual violence in schools, as you're aware of them. We don't have to go too deep in this because, like I said, we do have a whole episode about that, but just to kind of let people know who you guys are, what you do, and then we'll start talking about, some of these tools that you've developed that are now out in the world.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, so in terms of like where SafeBAE began and why we exist, I think when we talk about that sort of age window from like 13 to 18, for example, it still remains really taboo. I think even on a global level, certainly on a US level, but I think it still remains really taboo. It is one of the highest risks of sexual violence, experiencing sexual violence throughout a lifetime, but it still remains something that we like to other and pretend isn't happening, or imagine that if we follow certain rules, it couldn't happen to us, things like that. It's just this taboo that we like to avoid. So that's really how and why we came to exist. And I think what we've seen on a global level within the past 5 years is such an uptick. We just sit over here jealous of what's happening in Australia and the UK in terms of changes, education, mandating, and really talking about these issues in a way that the US is just absolutely not catching up with. So we're going to keep doing our best, but without the support of our federal government and do what we can. So, but I think we can all learn from each other on a global level of how and what is working. Absolutely.
I just can't even imagine the feeling of, well, I can imagine it a bit because we've got it here as well. But yeah, it's so much worse in the States, but just slogging your guts out for a cause that you're so passionate about that is just objectively insanely important. And not getting any support, not getting funding. Like just before we hit record, I was like, oh, how are you guys going? And Drew's like, living the dream and the nightmare. It's like been a big day. And it's like, fuck, yeah, totally. Like how the fuck do you guys keep your chins up?
Yeah, last week we really had to rally ourselves. Like there have been such unprecedented slashes to funding and research and support and prevention and response and all the things across the boards. But I think we kind of weathered through it last year. Again, really unprecedented. Like it's unprecedented to like get a CDC grant and then have it like yanked out from under you after you've staffed up and already made plans. So that sucked, and we got to cry ourselves to sleep for a good portion of last year, but only to turn around and have last week the majority of funding for teen pregnancy prevention disappear overnight. And while we do not do teen pregnancy prevention, it's obviously all intrinsically connected and will in turn impact us. And there is zero news about it. That's what's so important to even think about in the scope of
you literally you cannot find a mainstream media outlet talking about the cuts. And so on Friday, they cut 53 out of 67 of the existing teen pregnancy prevention grants. And so the TPP grants are one of the largest funding stream for sexual health and sexual violence in the United States, right? Because the scientific approach is taken that all these things are deeply connected. And so they're all under this sort of teen pregnancy prevention umbrella. And they cut 53 out of 67 of those grant programs. And they're replacing them with what they're calling body literacy, which sounds good if you think about it for a second. Like, it's like, great, like, get to know your body. That's not what they mean. It really is encouraging childbearing among teenagers. That's what the body literacy approach that they are putting this new funding call out for. And it is just the most evil thing in the world. And it's really scary.
Also
and so
benefits and SNAP and daycare and all of the things simultaneously. So let's just reboot Teen Mom. That was a great success for that crowd. Yeah, we are living through such absurdist times, and to be the old person on the team of this just little engine that could, and I'm like, oh y'all, I don't know what to tell you. I don't have hope, have faith, have a nap. It's going to be really hard to get through it.
Fucking hell. Yeah. I cannot imagine living in the States right now. Like, fuck, I can't think of it.
Yeah, imagine if they did that in Australia. In the meantime, we're just over here because we're watching as more and more funding gets released, more and more like study and work and mandate and actual like mandation, like legislation with teeth, like, right? What passes for legislation to mandate healthy relationship program in the United States is like, we're not going to make any suggestions as to what you should use. We're not going to give you any money. And we're also not going to check to make sure you're doing it, but you're mandated to do it. And I'm like, okay, great. Whereas we get to watch other places that are actually doing the work the way logic would suggest. Right? And so it is living in an upside down. What's the inside out? Oh.
The upside down in...
upside down, yes. We are very much living in the upside down.
Fucking hell.
Not enjoying.
Oh my God. Well, you're just doing such important work and someone's got to do it, but I really feel for you and the impact that would have on your mental health. Like, holy shit, you know? Like, so difficult to stay hopeful. And on the topic of it being difficult to stay hopeful, I feel this way about the increasing influence of the manosphere. I'm curious, like, through your like interfacing with young people all the time, having these conversations, have you seen the growing popularity of manfluencers and the explosion of the manosphere content impacting things from your end? Like, what are the young people you work with noticing or reporting?
I mean, yes, Drew, what were you just telling me about your Be Well and like the stats that they've seen and like, and the really horrific cases of violence?
Yeah, I would say that we've seen a huge increase, definitely in one, just people being pulled towards what they're selling, and they are selling you something. So that's like the one thing, but being really pulled towards the manosphere and really adopting these like really violent and brutal ways of like thinking about other people and thinking about sex, and then especially thinking about relationships and consent. And so I think some of the ways that we've seen it like show up in our work and in the conversations that we're having has been in like the level of choking and strangulation among young people, and particularly and among like teen girls being choked by a male partner in really violent ways, in ways that are, you know, sending them to the hospital with internal swelling, and getting a lot of those messages that's hot. And, you know, seeing videos of like influencers who they go up to a stranger and it's like, can I choke out this girl? And then those videos going really viral and seeing that be reposted even on my feed, which is not something that I would be engaging with. But so yeah, I think we're definitely seeing that. I don't know if there's more that you wanted to go into, Shel?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think just even in conversation with the young people that we work with and their alarm and their concern about how to navigate it, and they're also just, I think it can be so gaslighting when what's normalized in your feed or what's normalized in your conversations with your friends even, or just what you're hearing feels so gaslighting when you're like, why would I want that? Is that something I should want? And I do think every single one of us forms our opinions of ourselves as a sexual person and what we're bringing to the table, what we want out of our intimacy and what we want to bring to our intimacy. We do put a certain level of pressure on ourselves to like live up to what we might have seen in some form of media. And so the level of gaslighting that must be, I can't imagine living through that. I don't have any frame of reference as an old person to know what that must be. And I think, that scares me for young people to be having to try to navigate through that and like be able to stay true to themselves when everything around them feels like they're supposed to be doing something different. So, yeah.
I think it's that mainstreaming of it. For me, it's the mainstreaming of it and then seeing, so like even some of the kids that are really engaged in the work that we do at SafeBAE and who are like involved as peer educators, or even some of the youth that serve on our board. I remember like a particular conversation not that long ago, like a handful of months, where one of our youth board members was like, oh my goodness, like you guys posted about Clavicular, who, practically founded the manosphere. And I love that post, but he had been in my feed and I had no idea that he was bad, because they had just seen like clips of some of the like funny trends or some of like the way he talks, like gesture maxing and looks maxing and whatnot. And they didn't even realize that there was this like entire deeper layer of what this man's content was. And this is someone who's like super informed and like super into this work and like knows their shit. And yet it was like completely mainstream, and they had just completely taken this person as just another influencer who's like a normal person that they could trust, when there's this entire like dark and scary underbelly that you don't have to look that hard for. So it's that mainstreaming that I think is the scariest part for me, is like, if the kids that know their shit are getting this content and like liking it and engaging with it, that's really concerning for the masses of people that are consuming it and don't have any of the knowledge or access.
Oh my God.
That some of our young people do.
Totally.
Yeah. And then like on the flip side, like the parent conversations, holy shit. Like it's so like, I had a member of my family reach out because one of her very close friends had a teenager who did not disclose to her, but went to the doctor for like throat issues, only for the doctor to be dialed in and figure out that they had internal swelling. And then the child, like the teenager, like revealed to the doctor, like, well, I do, but I like it. I like want him to do it. And the mother, who like had no idea what was happening, was losing her shit. So my family member called me like, I know who to call. And I was like, actually, I don't know anything. Let me ask the kids. So I'm on the phone with the kids and I was like, is this because of porn? Like, where are they getting it? And the kids were all like, no, it's mainstream. They probably got it on Instagram. And I was like, what? And so even for me, every day, fully immersed in this work my entire adult life, was like, I'm sorry, what? And so trying to understand that, and then talking with moms who are like, but my daughter, who with her injury was like, but I love him and it's okay. And I was consensual and this is what we do. And this is, and like, what do you do with that as a mom, right? Like you're not gonna be like, well, you'll never see him again, because that's not gonna work. Try to talk to the boy. And like, literally their plan was to like get together with the boy and his family and all, and try and have a conversation about how this was bad for them, because that's totally gonna go well. And so like, what are your options? Literally, like you're just like moving cups, trying to like figure out the thing of like, how do you convince your daughter against everything out there that's messaging to her that this is not good for her, including the doctor visit she just came from. And when everything else is working against you, and if you ban it outright, they're going to just go behind your back. And then that's going to be even more unsafe. Like, we are living through very, very critically unsafe times. And so I think if we don't try to have really authentic conversations with kids so that they can get an alternative narrative, understand more, do their own sort of research, for lack of a better and more and really overused word on the interwebs. I think like we need to start messaging directly, not like shaming, not, trying to make them feel bad about that, but more help them understand the targeting that they're getting and how they are being consumed. They're not, by the algorithms, by all the targeting that happens on social media, and that whether it's vaping or all the things that they're getting targeted with, the things that are being sold to them, whether it's ideas or products or both, that they need to become really conscious consumers and try to weed through and find their way to holding their own ground.
Which is really tricky for parents and adults to kind of guide this when they didn't grow up in a time where it was really necessary in the same way. And so I feel like a lot of, the older generation don't quite understand or haven't grappled with like the severity and the weight of like what's actually going on right now, and that, some serious damage control needs to be done like pretty much around the clock and from every angle they can. Because like the thing is, like you were saying, Drew, like, it is so mainstream now. The fact that it bothers me that influencers are even a fucking thing. Like, when you were like, oh, they just thought Clavicula was like a normal influencer, just a normal person that they can trust. And I was like, how many fucking influencers are actually normal people that you can trust? Like, at the end of the day, they're basically making money off selling you shit and like influencing you, and they have stakes in that. And so I just, we need to be so much more conscious and critical of like what we take in, and not just what we buy, but what we consume in terms of like what we're letting into our brains. And the whole manosphere thing is quite alarming and quite horrifying. And the fact that kids are basically spending like more time online than they are with real humans doing real things, like on average now. And then the time they spend online is algorithmically driven to funnel them into this manosphere pipeline, into, feeling shit about themselves or thinking that it's normal to fucking choke out women, or, all the various really problematic messages that are peddled. That is going to be far more influential for young people than their parents who they now think are like lame and old and just don't get it. Or teachers who are also lame and old and just don't get it. They're getting their information from their peers and the internet, and their peers are getting it from the internet. And, it's just this like vicious cycle of like, in their incredibly delicate formative years where they're figuring out themselves, their identity, their sense of self-worth, their, personal boundaries, their sexual kind of identity. It's all being shaped and molded by these like insanely toxic influences online. And then it's being reinforced and policed by their peers. And it just makes me feel really scared.
Even themselves.
Yeah.
They're choosing to, unconsciously choosing to, or thinking that this is what they want because they've been influenced in that way.
Yeah, because you want to belong.
I mean, while we're sitting on a podcast called the Labia Lounge, I think it's important to like not ignore the fact that I think the targeted message with choking, just to come back to choking, and again, the manosphere in general, it's not good for anybody. It's not like it's good for boys. It's not like looks maxing isn't like killing boys too. And that the harm that people are causing and they're having to live with that as well. But I don't think it's accidental that it all is around like trying to target the messaging with like, oh, choking is going to so increase your sexual experience. Well, okay. Why aren't we looking to something else to do that instead of this, right? Like, why are we conflating those two things? God forbid we suggest something that might actually be known to increase pleasure in a very logical, and I don't even say evidence-based way, that isn't choking. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world that's pretty toxic. So it's really important, I think, to like get these kids to band together to say, no, actually the adults are targeting us with everything. And we need to actually just like ban all of the things they're targeting. Everybody who's trying to make $1 off me is now not allowed in my life. And I'm going to figure out what I want. And I'm going to do that in a way that isn't influenced by a a greater societal push or capital push to get me to consume something or be a certain way.
Yeah, totally. Because it's traumatizing so many, like the choking thing is like one element of it and it's pretty dramatic. But yeah, there's so many things like that are basically like traumatizing the giver and the receiver. And I see a lot of this sort of stuff like that does kind of spring up from porn and then gets like reinforced by the manosphere. And generally it's, you know, high impact, it's aggressive, it's violent, it's misogynistic. You know, it's always the femme-bodied person being the submissive or the one being, you know, choked or hurt or controlled or restrained or whatever. And it's fucking horrifying because like a lot of, like I've heard stories of like teenage boys just choking someone or like doing the thing because they've seen it in porn. They think that's what everyone does. The girls think that that's what everyone does as well. They're all kind of just like going along with it because they think that that's what sex is. But then like neither party are feeling good about it afterwards. And the boy is feeling really like strange and uncomfortable and guilty and yeah, like quite distressed by doing that. And that's kind of like leading me to the importance of the tool vibe check because I think like a lot of people are causing harm without realizing they're causing harm in the moment or they're not understanding, you know, until they really reflect later that their actions, weren't actually driven by any actual attunement or empathy for the person in front of them. It was really more they were just performing something on that person that they thought was how you flirt or how you get someone in the sack or how you actually do sex. And, you know, I want to get into like why you kind of started Vibe Check now because I guess like, you know, in my mind it was designed because there were an increasing number of young people starting to search, Google, you know, ask questions about like, did I do the wrong thing? Have I harmed someone? Am I a bad person for doing this? Did I violate someone? So yeah, I'd love to just like start to introduce that tool and why you kind of came up with it. And then I have a number of questions about how it's been going and things like that. But yeah, maybe just outline for people. I mean, I'll say just quickly, I did a little drive-through. It's an online tool. It's kind of like, you know, you can play out different scenarios and select different options. I felt like it was a little bit like the Goosebumps books I read when I was a kid where you could choose your own adventure. And the different paths, which is really cool. So yeah, curious why you designed it like this. Maybe just walk us through like what happens when a young person opens up Vibe Check. To paint a picture.
Yeah, there's so many pieces into like why we made this tool, how we made it. I'm like, where should I start? I think that the first thing to address is like, I think in the sort of movement of sexual violence prevention and ending sexual violence, we do have this like the myth of who perpetrates sexual violence. And it's so, right, we have things like the stranger danger, that the rapist is going to be the man in the bush that's going to jump out, or that it's like all these people with like sociopathic tendencies who are like doing it on purpose because they want to hurt people. And I think in our experience at SafeBAE and working with young people, we don't experience it like that. Like we don't feel like the young people who are causing harm to others are always doing it intentionally. And more often than not, it does feel like they are genuinely, unintentionally causing harm to someone else. And like that's a really difficult conversation and a difficult space to be in because it's really hard to try to like hold someone accountable and be like, yes, you caused harm, without equating them to those like folks with sociopathic tendencies who are purposefully trying to cause harm to people. And so really struggling with like, how do we balance these things? Because I don't think that the movement to end sexual violence has necessarily done that well, and is not equipped for this conversation. And so that's like one thing that we were seeing in our work. And then the other piece was this like rising online trend of young men going onto platforms like Reddit and asking these really vulnerable questions. Questions like, I think I accidentally sexually assaulted someone. What do I do? Or I'm worried I crossed a boundary. Or, right, like we had sex, they said yes, and I thought it was great, but now something is like totally off. And like they told their friend that, I assaulted them, and it doesn't make any sense to me. And they're asking these questions and they're being really earnest. Like I'm reading these long descriptions and all of these Reddit threads. And I'm like, I do think that there's an earnestness here. And then you scroll down and you start seeing the responses that people are getting. And the responses are like, either one, like, oh no, there is no such thing as accidental sexual assault. Like, you're fucking evil. You should kill yourself. Or on the other hand, there's this response of like, oh, like you absolutely did nothing wrong. Like you are perfect. Actually, women suck. Why don't you join this private group chat where we talk about hating women and we just like form a bond over grievance, right? And neither of those options are good. And so like I was deeply scared of both of those types of responses that we were seeing. And so that really sparked the conversation inside SafeBAE of like, what can we do about this? Like, what could it look like to try to offer an evidence-informed answer that didn't tell them they have to go kill themselves, or, didn't tell them that they did nothing wrong and that they should just hate women and like be more violent. And so in building Vibe Checkout, we were trying to come with that, like the middle ground where we could be really firm and hold people accountable and try to get them to understand what might have happened, where they might have went wrong, and what next steps would look like in a way that like isn't coddling, but it also isn't going to like build up those the defenses and cause like the defensiveness or the anger that is just going to cause them to like click out of the tool and not engage with it and probably end up in the manosphere and in those communities built out of grievance. And so I think that was really the starting place. And so we did a huge content analysis of all of these Reddit threads. There are upwards of like 500,000 of these types of questions being asked every year. So there's like no limit to the source material for how we built Vibe Check. And from there, we really got like, here's what the entry points are. And then it was kind of plug and play with what SafeBAE has already built in our huge library of resources, addressing practically every topic of things related to consent, relationship, sexual violence, and sort of just like building that out in a way that was responding to the actual questions that young men were asking online, but doing so in a way that was evidence-informed and still really non-judgmental and speaking to them in their voice. I just yapped a lot. I don't know if there's anything, Shel, you want to add?
Gold.
No, I think in general, we were starting to see some of these like solution-based ideas come up, all founded in AI. And we were like, and honestly, there's nothing like a villain to motivate Drew to like take this massive pile of resources that we've had and say, we have to like nip this in the bud. We have to get out in front of it because we are going to start seeing people throw garbage solutions at AI. It was the same thing when apps were the new technology. Everybody had an app for this until we all went, no more apps. And I think that was really that motivating force that made Drew, like one night, I just went to bed and the next morning he was like, I did a thing. And I was like, how did you do a thing? And a little bit more time was spent than that. But at the same time, he was able to take all of these evidence-based and human-created resources to do exactly what you said, like a sort of choose your own ending pathway that I think when I look at my generation and every day I feel older and older because we had call lines, right? But that's still what everybody thinks is still a funded solution. A lot of the times is like call lines. It's not to say that those aren't necessary, but it is to say that this generation isn't going to use them as much, if at all, right? They're getting further, like you said, further and further away from like verbal interaction. So can we meet them where they are? Can we offer solutions in different spaces where they are? And I think to Drew's point of Reddit and even ChatGPT, but specifically Reddit, did you say this before that like there is already like a bot for if somebody types in keywords around mental health, risk or things, a bot will pop up to take them out of Reddit to resources instead of just like the answers you're going to get from the community. in an ideal scenario, we'd love to see a bot that redirects people out to vibe check so that they can get human-based but evidence-based resources before they get torn apart by the Reddit community, so that we can interrupt some of those pathways, right? We really desperately need to interrupt at least one of the on-ramps to harmful behavior, manosphere, and just the overall mental health horrific outcomes for everybody on all sides. We got to throw everything we can at it. And this is one of those solutions. And I think one of the most extraordinary things I've seen in the pushing 30 years of work I've done in this field, like, this really is a solution that I don't think misses the mark that sometimes we often see. And I think people my age are really like, well, we'll just do some social media content, or and it's just like, we got to stop with the antiquated approaches, and we got to level up, putting power in the hands of kids, because they actually have a lot of ways to solve things that I would never in my wildest dreams have come up with. And so if we ask adults to step out of that for a minute and actually put kids in leadership positions, and yes, I am always going to refer to everyone at SafeBAE as kids, but it's only fair because they call me things like Grams. So I am
for clarity's sake, I am 24 years old. I have 3 master's degrees. So, kid.
And I don't have grandchildren, but here we are.
I think you've earned the right to call people kids. Totally.
And I say that with and I've been corrected by a lot of adults. Like, I don't think kids like being called kids. And I'm like, I know. But also, the kids don't mind being called kids too much if you put them in a lot of power.
Totally. Well, yeah. I mean, you actually respect them. So it's not a diminutive thing. It's like an affectionate, endearing way to refer to them, because actually you're probably one of the only adults in a lot of their lives that actually fucking take them seriously and give them a platform and give them responsibility and like value their contribution and their perspectives, because you see how incredibly like on point that can be when you're trying to solve problems for other young people.
I think there's a lot of different pieces that allyship comes in, and I think that the best and most important thing that people my age can do is, at least to some degree, get out of the way.
Hey, baby babes. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to pop my head into the lounge here and mention another virtual lounge that I'd love you to get around. It's the Labia Lounge Facebook group that I've created for listeners of the poddy to mingle in. There you'll find extra bits and bobs like freebies, behind the scenes, or discounts for offerings from guests who have been interviewed on the podcast. There'll also be, hopefully, inspiring, thought-provoking conversations and support from a community of labial legends like yourself. My vision for this is that it becomes a really supportive, educational and hilarious resource for you to have more access to me and a safe space to ask questions you can't ask anywhere else. So head over to the links in the show notes or look up the Labia Lounge group in Facebook and I'll see you in there. And now, back to the episode. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me to my next question, which is around this companion guide that you've published for parents on how to introduce the tool. I mean, when you sent me this tool and I was checking it out, and I'm like, this is fucking awesome, but are kids going to use it? How are they going to find it? Are they going to take it? Like, I just was like, I don't know. Like, my experience of teenagers is, you know, especially now in this like nonchalance epidemic that we're in, is like, they're not going to want to adopt or use something like that, especially if a grown up has like put it in front of them. Cause it's, I don't know, at least where I come from, that would have been seen as very uncool. And we see quote unquote adults as being fucking out of touch. So it's like, how do you actually impress upon them that this is important and valuable and get them to have a look at it without actually pushing them further away from it?
Well, let alone feeling accusatory, right? Like, I'm a mom. Like, if I'd been like,
True.
Here's this tool, they'd be like, what do you think of me? Like, why? Mom, why do you think I need this tool for rapists? Like, you know, there would be a certain assumption with that. So I think it is something to approach really carefully and to not mandate, right? This is not something you assign a child or like, you know, somebody in your life. I think it's about, you know, kind of talking about it, publicizing it, putting it out there into the world in as many ways as we can, and then letting people come to it as needed. And more often than not, you're going to find yourself looking at it. Interesting is we collect almost no data on the tool itself for very intentionally, right? How many clicks are we getting? How long are they staying? And more importantly, where are they clicking through? Some of those, so we know like what's getting most used. And one of the most used pathways is my friend harmed someone and I don't know how to manage that. And we were hearing that, right? Anecdotally, we knew everywhere we went that we were seeing like in one friend group fractures because one person accuses another person. Everybody goes, I don't know, belief survivors. And that means I have to cancel this person and like the erasure that happens with that. And so everybody would just stand still and like freak out in their own little way and really not know the direction to take. And I've always said to kids in that situation, like at the end of the day, it is much harder to hold your friend accountable than to just walk away from them and cancel them forever. But to some degree that's really just going to force them into a corner where they're doubling down, a villain origin story of sorts. And that doesn't serve anybody either. So if we can say, listen, hold your friend accountable. You weren't there. You can't be judge, jury, and all of the things, but you can say, it seems like harm might have been caused, even if you didn't mean to. It's something to look at. And we can all, and I think that's where changing the narrative completely to say, none of us is going to walk through life flawless. We're going to upset somebody in some way. We're going to misstep in some way. We're going to misread a room, whatever it may be, send an email to the wrong person. We're all messing up across the boards. And I think if we can prepare ourselves to say, this is not for somebody who's causing harm intentionally. This is not for sociopathic perpetrators. This is for people who look back and go, oh shit. Whether it's because somebody told them you harmed me, or they heard that, or somebody's acting weird, or because they have a sense inside of themselves that maybe it didn't go how they thought it did, because they were reading a cue that they were told in some form of media was a cue to move forward. No doesn't mean try harder, but how many messages a day did they get that no means try harder? So I think like giving them a vulnerable place to reflect on that and say, this does not make you a horrendous, horrible person. It makes you flawed. And it means that you need to do some reflection on how to make sure you don't cause that harm again and how you can repair it. What steps you can take in that way. And that's all any of us can do. Anytime we all fuck up, it's not that we're not going to fuck up. It's that how do we respond to learning that we did fuck up and taking that accountability, taking those steps. That's all any of us can do in this lifetime. But I think that we are so black and white right now. Right? Like, yeah, these are good people. These are bad people. These are the people I stand with. These people must be monsters then, animals then. And if we can get away from some of that polarizing rhetoric, we can really understand that, particularly as parents, right? All we can do is try to teach our kids the best things, send them out into the world and hope they absorbed something. But I certainly know that parents live in fear that their kids could cause harm unintentionally. And then how do you navigate that?
Yeah, I feel like I got the image in my head of, you know, these kind of old movie tropes, like when someone's, you know, a guy's going on a date, but he's really nervous and he doesn't know what to do. So he has an earpiece in and his like friend or dating coach is like telling him advice, being like, you should say this, you should do that. And he just does all the wrong things. And, you know, the woman actually gets really put off. And then he just goes, oh, no, throws the earpiece out and is just himself. And he's a sweetie. And it's like, I feel like the earpiece in all of these teenagers' ears is like porn and the manosphere and influencers telling them that it's normal and okay and encouraged and they should be doing things a certain way. And so they're kind of like, you know, they're not meaning to be perpetrators. They're just doing the best with what they've got and the resources available to them that are, well, shoved under their noses. So it's really,
well, I think what passes for comprehensive sexual education has not, and may never include pleasure.
Totally.
As long as we're leaving that out And kids like get the cue somewhere, right? We all believe that if we teach kids that there's some pleasure involved with sex, then they're going to just be doing it everywhere. And here's the news. They're doing it everywhere anyway. So we might as well have the conversation so that they're not sourcing the information about what the pleasure piece is, right? Like, okay, here's now how not to get pregnant. Here's how not to get an STI. Oh, here's some deeply homophobic lesson we're going to give you. We're going to normalize everything in, heteronormative language. We're not going to speak to what your experience is, and we're definitely not going to let you in on that there could ever be pleasure involved in a sexual experience. So you're going to try and seek that somewhere else, and you're going to go to the internet, and you're going to go to porn because that's the obvious place that the internet is going to send you. And so when the messages you're getting around how to seek pleasure, give pleasure, are as toxic as they are in those spaces, you're going to be trying out those things without any level of awareness or education or another voice that's telling you any sort of other pathway to go down. And so you're going to be left to try and figure it out on your own with like the shit messaging on the internet and experimentation. And that's where I think like, until we are able to start having really candid conversations with kids about, yeah, if done right, it does feel good. That's the whole thing driving the human race. And so the jig is up. We all know that that's behind the whole thing. And so let's have a real conversation about that and stop somehow like trying to pull the wool over kids' eyes, because then they're just out there sourcing it poorly.
Totally.
That's a hard conversation. That's a really fear-based conversation.
Well, and it's many, many, many conversations over their whole fucking lives. And that's where I think like parents aren't being equipped. And I've done episodes on this around like sex positive parenting and shame-free parenting, and actually just having many conversations in small, manageable, accessible ways so that it's super normalized in the household to just have sex and pleasure and body safety and boundaries, have all of that just be a normal topic of conversation so that they know that they can come to you, so that that's just something embedded in their upbringing rather than a, birds and the bees, quote unquote, talk where you're trying to kind of get it all in and they're just like awkward as fuck, squirming out of their skin, wanting to leave the room, not listening to you anyway, And
I'm not saying it necessarily has to happen in schools, but like, if for even 1 second of one day, as you're having those incremental conversations, at some point, if a parent can say to their child, here's the thing you're never going to learn in school, if the other person you're with is enjoying what's happening, it is so much better. Mm-hmm. Like, you are going to feel incredible by making somebody else experience that level of pleasure. And by the way, you're going to get pleasure from that. And everybody wins if everybody's having an incredibly pleasurable experience. But we don't talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to ask, like, what some strategies are in your companion guide for parents around introducing the tool of vibe check. First, though, because it's so topical, I want to do the segment Get Pregnant and Die. And I've already had a story from you, Shel, in our last episode. So, Drew, I'm wondering if you have a story about your sex education in school, outside school, doesn't matter what age, but yeah, some sort of anecdote that might be relevant for this segment.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Promise?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, I didn't get, so I went to Catholic school, so I obviously did not get any form of sex ed at all. Zero or none, not even like the puberty talk. But I was really fortunate. And so it all sort of loops back into SafeBAE and part of why I love SafeBAE. So despite not getting any sex ed from the school, I got a lot of sex ed at school. And so when I was in 7th and 8th grade in choir, which was like first period in the morning, we didn't really have a choir director at that point. I think she was on maternity leave and then didn't come back. And so then it was just like, okay, we're having a 2-year-long substitute. And one of the girls that I was really good friends with, Lauren, she's a lawyer now, so that's super cool. But she would give sex ed every single day behind the bleachers of choir. And I'm talking comprehensive. She was drawing. I don't know if it was because she had older sisters, but she was like doing anatomy lessons. She was handing out tampons. She was showing everyone everything. She was talking about condoms. I mean, I remember it so clearly because it was so comprehensive. I got everything that I could have needed. She covered the gay stuff. I'm like, maybe we should get her to be doing this work because she was compelling. God. It was comprehensive.
Peer-to-peer.
It was peer-to-peer, but that brings back to SafeBAE. That's why I'm like, I know, as a matter of fact, that these kids that take our peer educator training, I know that they're doing shit like that. I know that they're running around their school being little educators because I had one. Lauren literally gave, not just me, but she gave everyone in that class such a gift because they would not have gotten it anywhere else. And it was so comprehensive. Like, I distinctly remember my first time learning about what a tampon was from her.
Oh my
and
God.
This whole demonstration and like she was bringing in books. It was brilliant. And I put respect on her name because I don't know where she's at, what she's doing.
Lord's work.
Lawyer, but she did the Lord's work really. Like, it was so, and she was so compelling. She got all of like the little straight boys to like really lock in for her lessons. Like, she was so good. It was predominantly boys that she was giving these things to.
Oh, I bet.
And it was just like, I respect it so much because she was on that grind. I don't know what motivated it, but
I'm so curious.
We got I got the best sex ed in school from Lauren.
I really want to track her down. That is unbelievable. That's like live. It's like the TV show Sex Education, but she was doing it before it was on Netflix. Like, that's so cool.
I think I owe her a DM or something.
I was going to say, you should absolutely DM her and also flick her this episode when it comes out and be like, just tell her the timestamp. Be like, you get a mention, girl. That's so good. That's unbelievable. I want to know what her parents, like, I want to know where she was getting all of this. Like, crazy.
Yeah, we need backstory. Drew.
Yeah.
I don't know it, but I got amazing sex ed from her. Like,
Lauren, get in touch. You can have a segment on the podcast.
Did Lauren talk about pleasure? Did she?
I bet. I'm sure. Like, because it was comprehensive as fuck. Because we had a long time.
She was talking about pleasure.
And I mean, I think it started with like just like the menstrual education, and like she was really about the like, you're not going to shame me for pulling out a tampon, and we're not doing that. I think that might have been how it started. Actually, it was like there was like a joke or something when someone needed a tampon or a pad, and she's like, "No, enough."
Oh my God! Yes, girl.
Icon. She did that.
Holy fuck! That's like one of my favorite stories I've heard on this podcast. Can
you imagine what a generation of legends we would create if we just did two things: took away that period shame and told boys, you know what, you could be a hero of this story if you had extra tampons and pads in your bag, and if you saw somebody in a struggle looking for a moment and you had those, you would be a legend anywhere you went, to be the only boy with like backup products when girls can't get them. And if we normalize vibrators, we normalize boys to not be threatened by them, not be afraid of them. Go buy one for your partner. You want to stop choking people, go buy a vibrator.
Yeah.
That's what pleasure's going to be better. Also, I do think like we could create an entire generation of legends and close the orgasm gap and just like, again, be out here living in the real world and not living in this made up, like thrust upon us world that none of us consented to in the first place. We're just out here consuming it passively and not even knowing how much it's harming us.
Fucking oath clicks to that. It's a bit of an uphill battle.
Wrapping it up everywhere we go.
We need more Laurens. Oh my God. Because like what worries me is, you touched on it earlier, and this is sort of a bit of a driving force for creating Vibe Check. But like, you know, your research showing that like so many young people, like 500,000 a year questions like this, nuts, like on Reddit and ChatGPT and stuff, you know, around consent, around these issues, like that scares me because like well, I mean, at least it's good that they're asking earnest questions and they're sort of trying to educate themselves, because that's the first step. It's like so frustrating when, especially like boys and men in particular, kind of expect the women to just like do the work for them and like hand it to them on a silver platter and like educate them on stuff. So I'm stoked that they're like doing a bit of Google searching themselves, but like it's quite worrying, you know, that so many people are now going to ChatGPT, for instance, for therapy, for sex education, for things like this. And like, you know, I guess it can be better than nothing in some circumstances, but like
well, the study we just posted about Drew, you quoted, I never remember that. The study we posted about using ChatGPT for like social emotional learning and feedback.
Yeah, tell me about this.
Really, yeah. So there's this good study recently that was talking about how the folks that were using ChatGPT, after using it, it like decreased their ability to like accept boundaries or take pushback, because the way in which like ChatGPT is so sycophantic and like will just keep telling you what you want to hear, and it'll keep telling you that you're right and that like you're good, that over time those people become less and less able to be in relationship with other people and like accept other people's boundaries, take pushback, be a normal human being and be able to like exist in relation to others. And so I find that to be like this, one of the scariest pieces of how it can start to slowly erode their own sense of like, of their own ego and their own identity and the own way that they understand that they're in relation to someone else. It is so terrifying to me that we're going to allow for a generation of young people to be like fed that this is like what a partner is like. And so like seeing things like the AI companions where it's like they like advertise themselves as being like the perfect boyfriend who's always going to be available and will never say no and will give you everything that you want and will do everything you say exactly when you want it. Oh my God. I mean, I guess I wish, like, wouldn't that be wonderful if only that was reality? But that's not reality. And so then if you're using an AI companion, what happens when you're with a person and you're expecting that? And I find that to be horrifying, personally.
Completely horrifying, especially when, you know, AI is basically built by men for men. It's informed by, you know, 80% male user base. It's basically like doubling down on and compounding all of the misogyny and the patriarchal stuff and the medical gaslighting of women and fucking everything. So like in particular, it worries me when women use it and it kind of reinforces the gaslighting that they would also be receiving from like the medical system in the West, or when it reinforces like, you know, like there's some stuff around how, you know, if it's a woman asking how much she should ask for a pay rise, you know, AI will tell her 15K less than if it's a man. And all of the gender bias is fully imbued in AI now, like it's built in. And then the AI companion thing like fucking freaks me out, because like I would say like more male users for like female AI companions. And yeah, it's just like, again, same with what porn is doing, same with what the manosphere is doing, reinforcing basically this kind of like trad wife ideal of like a woman that is basically there at your beck and call, never fights back, never like has her own kind of opinions or boundaries, but basically just like fucking sucks up your ass and is the quote unquote perfect kind of subservient, loving, devoted, you know, companion. And it's like, holy shit, you know, like that's another really powerful influence now telling men that women should be subservient and should be there for their every, you know, whim and need and desire, and shouldn't push back or have their own opinions or boundaries. And so, you know, it just kind of like, yeah, in a really fast-tracked, super fucking intense way, reinforcing like really damaging kind of patterns that we've spent like fucking, you know, few generations trying to combat. It's like there's almost been like a rollback of, yeah, women's rights. And yeah, it just freaks me the fuck out.
Excuse this quick interruption. I'm shamelessly seeking reviews and 5-star ratings for the potty because, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, it's pretty fab, and the more people who get to hear it, the more people I can help with it. Reviews and ratings actually do make a big difference to this little independent podcaster. And it's really easy to just quickly show your support by taking that simple act of either leaving 5 stars for the show on Spotify, or even better, writing a written review and leaving 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're a real overachiever, you can do them both. That would be mad. If you're writing a review, though, just be sure to use G-rated words, because despite the fact that this is a podcast about sexuality, words like sex can be censored and your review won't make it through the gates. Lame. Anyway, I would personally recommend doing that right now while you remember, just to get on top of it and let me know you're with me on this journey. Thanks, gang. Enjoy the rest of the epi.
We're handing it over.
Yeah.
Too. It's not just a rollback. It's a hand back in a lot of ways. So we have to, I think, do a lot of education to invite banding together and a better reflection of like, what is it that we want to bring to the table and what is it that we want in return, that isn't influenced by those outside really strong, powerful voices. That's what, like you said, you've got to have really comprehensive conversations with your kids. My kids say all the time, none of our friends have conversations like we do with you. And I'm willing to bet that at times they wish that we didn't. But nevertheless, I do think like there's got to be something to counteract that. And I think we can push through the bullshit of the polarization of our society right now to all agree we want our kids to be safer. We want them to have their own cognizant abilities. Even if we do love AI for some fucking reason, we want kids to be able to process their own thoughts. I would hope, and to be functioning in the world. I don't think any parent is going to be like out here controversially denying those things. But can we come together to find a way to invite this generation to push back against what there is being shoved down? So it's like,
and I think like
at this point.
And is that sort of part of like what you cover in because would love some tips and strategies like for parents, but is that something that comes into it? Because like in my mind, I feel like the way I would kind of involve and enroll young people and kind of galvanize them into wanting to take action and take responsibility is by kind of like, making sure there's regular conversations around like online behaviors and sort of cyber safety and critical thinking and, you know, that kind of quadrant of things that then you can kind of use to inform a conversation around like, a lot of people are using ChatGPT or Reddit like to ask questions about like really important stuff, but those answers aren't necessarily informed by reality and, you know, this tool Vibe Check, like you were saying, Drew, like you've basically used real young people's experiences and answers and wisdom to answer also real young people's questions that are being asked online. And it's kind of rolled into this one tool. And so like, you know, it could be seen as like a really empowering tool for helping develop critical thought and nuanced kind of empathy and understanding of human behavior and consent and boundaries and how to communicate and how to kind of like be a leader, be a Lauren, you know, in this space. Is that something that kids kind of get around, or is that all still uncool? Like how do you actually talk to them about it? What are your tips?
I think for a parent perspective, first and foremost is like, not to put it in front of them in a, you're going to need this kind of way, but maybe like that at some point in their life, they might have a friend that will need it. And to have the conversation shaped around exactly what I said before, like we are all going to make mistakes as we go out into the world, and to try and normalize for kids that they should do their best to learn in advance all of the things that go into healthy relationships and intimacy and consent. And also stop along the way, checkpoints along the way, anytime they're doing anything with any intimacy or otherwise, right? Check in with your friends. Is everything like, if somebody looks uncomfortable, check in, like start to normalize those types of things. And then also normalize that people are going to fuck it up and that we all have a responsibility to each other, to hold each other accountable, to be our own like junior justice system, if you will, like to say like, okay, I messed this up. tomorrow you're going to mess this up. So let's work together to like hold each other accountable and also heal and also take accountability and say we're sorry. And I think that if we have like framework conversations like that outside of intimacy, just based in friendship throughout developmental years, and then direct them to these, you know, counter narrative tools like say vibe check, then it's really just like giving them something else to balance it out. And I think as long as we're not approaching it in a way that's going to put their defenses up, that's going to be the key to just inviting them to use a tool, not insinuating they need it, insinuating like they're a problem. But I do think it takes lead up conversations too, like setting that pathway.
So much of what the parent's guide actually is like less of what to do and more of what not to do. Like the most of it is actually written of like, don't do these things, don't assign it, don't give it to them punitively, don't like bring it up in the most charged moment possible when you know that they've already done something and that they're already like spiraling, right? Like those are not the best moments, but to have it be introduced casually and like gently so that it's something that's made available early. And it's just something that's there for when these moments happen, because they're going to happen, whether it's with them or if it's with a friend, it's going to happen where this resource could be relevant to an experience that someone's having.
Do we think the algorithms like really work where you could just like steal your kid's phone and be like, vibe check, vibe check, vibe check, vibe check. Like, so when they wake up the next morning, they'll like get it. Do you think that should we add that? It totally work. Like, I mean, we've tried it. You know, you get targeted with things after you talk around your phone.
It's true. Oh my God.
What in the old? Okay. Oh.
So do you guys have
parents sneaking into their kids' room?
just like saying the word heaps around their phone? Well, do you guys have do you have targeted ads and sponsored posts and stuff like about Vibe Check?
I love that you're asking that. That would have put me a funding for that.
We are working on that. We are working on using, so like Google gives nonprofits Google ad spend. And so we have a lovely pro bono consulting group. It's Spark Labs Consulting. They are folks who were formerly at, I believe, the CDC. And then when the federal government got rid of all of our really brilliant experts in public health and fired them all, and then some court cases said, like, you can't fire them. So now they're sort of just on leave. They sort of got together and put this consulting firm together. And so they are running our Google ads for us and doing some a really lovely work, trying to do some campaigns on getting just SafeBAE out there, but also targeted for Vibe Check as well. So I want to give them a shout out because they're the most lovely people ever. And they're also emblematic of the state of the United States right now.
Yeah. But we also, so much word of mouth. We've gone out to so many state coalitions, so many partner agencies, so many just educators, school partners, kids. Like, we have just begged everyone, put it in your newsletter, talk about it anywhere you can. And Drew, what's our head count? Like, since April, we launched at the beginning of April. What's our head count as click count of individual users right now?
I have not looked in the past couple days, but we are well over maybe 25,000 unique users. So that's a lot of people to come visit it. I'm really happy with those numbers personally. And then people are, so one of the other, we don't collect any identifiable data, but we do collect some things on the click paths, what are the most things that people are clicking, and also how long are individual users staying on the tool. And so folks are staying on the tool for, on average, more than 5 minutes. Great. So that's actually really good. So they're not just opening it and I'm getting that click and then shutting it. They're actually spending time in the tool.
Yeah, right.
The other piece that I think is really relevant here is that the second most used feature within the thing is actually the repair builder, the apology generator, where you work through crafting what an accountable apology looks like. And they're not just opening that, they're actually using it to completion and fully going through that full exercise.
Oh my God.
And so I think that is a really positive. I like to take that number and be okay, I got this many people who are moving towards repair this week. Some motivation to not quit my job and
move to Australia.
I think that's the thing, right? If every bad day or every bad piece of news or every ripped away funding or every, like, if you can like put your head on the pillow every night and go, for every shit AI response people are getting, we're trying to combat that in some way and really make lovely humans who want to say they're sorry. That is the only thing that can keep me in bed.
That's also what I like so much more about vibe check in comparison to AI is that, like, you can ask ChatGPT, like, write me an apology. And that is not what the apology builder in vibe check does. Like, the apology builder in vibe check, you have to, like, critically think with structured responses and personalized, like, examples. You have to think through what your apology is going to be, which is such a different experience than saying, like, hey, chat, I really like did something. I need you to give me a really good apology and get me out of this. And then it's going to write you some ridiculous word vomit slop. Like, that is the difference between the thing is, like, someone spending that, like, way more time on critically thinking through.
Yeah, that is really cool.
What actually happened, rather than just having chat spit them out some ridiculous generic apology.
I'm so glad it's being used, like, especially for the apology builder. Like, that's such a, because it's, you know, then they're also building that skill. Like, they might use it once or twice and then they don't need to because they've done it, they've had a rep, they've done it once or twice, they've apologized to someone, they've constructed their own, and they actually now see how that plays out in real life, and it'll be like, there'll be less of a barrier the next time they need to apologize to somebody, you know, like, I think it's actually helping them learn real world skills that they can apply and practice with, you know, the hand holding and the scaffolding of vibe check, which, you know, then they eventually hopefully won't need. And like, yeah, it's really heartening to hear those numbers. What are like the most common questions that people follow through? Like, so, you know, it can be like, yeah, I mean, some of the questions are pretty like hardcore, like, am I a rapist? Like, did I harm someone? What are the scenarios that you're seeing be the most common? Is it like a friend did something and I want to know how to handle it? Is it like I did something and the person said that they regretted it afterwards? Like, do you have any stats around like what the common queries are that people are looking up?
Yeah, so the number one pathway on that first, like, what brings you here page is that I think my friend did something and I don't know what to do. The second one is it's like, I'm going to open it because I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not sure if what happened was okay. That's the number 2 one. So we have, I think my friend did something, and then I'm not sure if what happened was okay. And then the third most like prevalent sort of subpath, I guess, is that we were drinking or using substances. And people spend a lot of time on that one.
Okay.
That one is being used in full over and over and over and over again. Because it's a subpath, it's like behind a couple layers. You have to get through a couple questions before you're going to get the alcohol pathway. So the number of how often folks are using the alcohol pathway is really surprising.
Wow. Okay.
But that does seem to be one of the biggest areas where there's a lot of questions.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I'm interested in the difference between like Australia and the United States, because I do think one of the biggest reasons that we see or hear from anyone that's worried that they caused harm and that's preventing them from apologizing is the underlying litigiousness of our country. So that may be like something that you all don't have as deeply embedded in your country as we do, but like every kid and their parents and everyone around them is like, lawyer up. You can't apologize. That's an admission of guilt. You can't double down that you could never do anything wrong. And what a horrible feeling to carry around. And just because like, okay, I'm going to get hauled off to jail, which statistically is not true at all.
Yeah.
I'm going to carry around this horrific feeling, knowing I caused harm to someone, knowing that I didn't say sorry for it, that I didn't learn how not to do it again. Like, what a burden to carry around. Not to the rape apologist, but truly, are we serving any of us if somebody's carrying that around all so that they can avoid like maybe some sort of judicial system process, which is statistically unlikely, but we are culturalized to think it will be. So if we can give them this anonymous resource that says like, here is how to craft an apology. And in our anecdotal experience, an apology is actually going to help off-ramp from a litigious pathway.
Right? I know, but we have this like fear mongering around like how dramatic it's all going to be if you, because apologizing is equivalent to admitting fault, and therefore that will escalate things because now they've got ammunition against you. But it's like, no, do you think like anyone who's been sexually harmed or violated in any way wants to fucking go to court? Like, no one actually wants to fucking go to court and be dragged through that process. And statistically, it's not going to fucking go well for the victim survivor. So like, it's just so crazy that we put so much. And something that I really like about like kind of on this, something I like about Vibe Report is like so much of prevention work or just work and focus around sexual violence really like doesn't like it centers the wrong thing or the wrong party, you know, like I think it's really cool that Vibe Check like centers the experience and feelings of the potential victim survivor but really focuses on what the potential perpetrator can kind of do and supports them to take responsibility and accountability in an active way. Like it kind of almost, you know, like you were saying, Drew, it doesn't coddle, it doesn't dismiss or make excuses for, it really kind of expects and demands more of the potential perpetrator for once, without victim blaming or shaming. But it's like just very human centered. It's like taking all parties into consideration rather than being like a you against you kind of thing. So I really liked that because it's so poorly dealt with generally. It's tricky because every situation is different, but like in some of the common scenarios, like what does accountability actually kind of mean in this context? Like I'm talking about, it's great for the perpetrators to take accountability, to actually like follow a scenario pathway to see where they might have gone wrong, why it was wrong, and what to do now to kind of take accountability. Is it usually constructing an apology? Are there other action steps that they get given? Like when a teenager's crossed the line, like what are you hoping that they do after they close the browser?
Yeah, I think that there really is the two things for us. And one of the things that we're always saying is like the number one thing that we hear from survivors is that they just want the person that harmed them to say they're sorry and never do it to anyone else again. And so it's those two things are like the guiding principles of what we want to happen after someone uses the tool is like, right, to say they're sorry, to move towards repair and to generate that apology. If and when it's appropriate, right, there's going to be circumstances where maybe an apology isn't the best thing right now for that other individual. But in most instances, an apology is often like wanted. And that apology needs to like identify what happened, that person's role in it, and then tangible next steps of they're not going to do it again to someone else. And so the rest of the resources that are at the end of Vibe Check are really about ensuring that they do not do it again. And so there is different tools adapted from like cognitive behavioral therapy on like emotional regulation, because that is a key part of it here for when we're talking about recidivism, is that sort of like that defensiveness, that anger, that sort of justifying it, and then it escalates that violence, right? Mm-hmm. So wanting to build in emotional regulation tools, and then also providing that like education. So there's learning modules there. There's ways to sort of challenge your beliefs that you might have and to sort of unlearn some of the things that you've been fed. And so really what it really is about is, again, the making sure that they can apologize and that they never do it to anyone else again. I think that that is the best takeaway that we could have for a tool like this.
Absolutely.
Is that it doesn't happen ever again to the individual that they did it to, but to anyone else either.
Mm-hmm.
And those are like really hard. It's a big goal. But right now I don't think that we have good tools for reducing recidivism. I don't think that we have any really. Because what, like, they're told, they're like just ostracized and like told like you suck. And so then what is your answer as someone who like maybe you feel a little guilty about it? your best option, honestly, right now is to just like really get into that grievance and be mad that they're mad at you and that you did something wrong, and then just like keep doing it and like double and triple down. We don't have an off ramp to be able to be like, I did a bad thing once and I'm no longer that thing, right? Like I'm not that. Yeah, my thoughts.
No, it's so true. It's so true. Like, what choice do you have but to like vilify the other person who accused you? They gave me the wrong cues, whatever it is. No, I think like this really pushes so directly against that narrative. Like we can all do better, and we can, and also this is a tool so that it takes the onus off of survivors from having to do the work to help them not harm again.
Exactly. Because so often it does fall on the survivors to educate, to push for change and reform, and to try to, shoulder the load with, it's really unfair. And this is kind of reminding me of an episode I did with Ray Alfonso called Becoming Active Bystanders and Healing Harm in Our Communities. And it really is about like, okay, it doesn't serve anyone to just completely ostracize offenders or perpetrators. More often than not, they aren't aware they've done anything wrong, or they're only just becoming aware, but it wasn't out of malicious intent. It was because of a lack of education, ignorance, conditioning, man box, fucking stereotypes, like all sorts of stuff, right? Manosphere, influences. They're not automatically bad people that deserve to be cut off from their communities, cancelled, ostracized. And that's not a constructive way to deal with it moving forward, because there won't be an apology, and there certainly won't be, this person's probably then going to do it again. They're going to double down. They're going to feel indignant, defensive, angry, othered. And that's not helpful either. So, that episode I did with Ray was really around like more sort of restorative justice approaches and, calling in people rather than calling them out. And I think the tricky thing about that is when like the victim survivors are the ones having to do the calling in and calling out and like protect each other and themselves. Whereas this tool kind of means it's a neutral middleman. It's informed by data from the victim survivors, which is fucking awesome. That work is already done. You've already got that data. You're using it in an empowering way where they themselves don't have to be the educator or the space holder or the person that, is holding the hand of the perpetrator and helping them navigate it. Like now this tool kind of just provides that and is still doing the kind of restorative thing of like, no, we're not going to ostracize you. We're just going to like, normalize your experience and explain how you might have gotten here and, explain why you shouldn't be doing it again, and also teach you how to repair. Like it's kind of, it sounds like a pretty fucking perfect solution, really. And like, I know it's tricky and, getting people to adopt it and use it is difficult. And there will always be people that are, not going to be open to that, or that might be too far gone down a certain, pathway to be able to be influenced by a tool like this. But I really appreciate the effort that's gone into it and the thought and attention to detail and like, the planning that has been required to create something that's really humanity-centric and just like constructive, mature, gentle, constructive. It's not bias. It's not polarizing. It's just like, yo, you're a human. I'm a human. The person you might have harmed is a fucking human. Let's just like talk about this and let's educate you in a way that's not going to put you offside. So yeah, love. I do realize we've gone a bit over time. I want to have time for a TMI story. If one of you has a TMI story.
TMI, we love it. TMI, we love it.
Well, I just think like language and authentic language and vulnerable language and funny language, I think like language should be overused in safe settings, not in schools and not like, but so do you want to show the stitch work that I gave you?
Oh my
It's
God.
down on a very low shelf.
Inappropriate. This is inappropriate.
So
Oh my God, show me immediately. Cunt
It
is
says,
as cunt
cunt
does.
is as cunt does. And that was my employee appreciation gift.
That is the best. Oh my God. Handmade.
We're on the Labia Lounge. I can't.
That's the best. That's the
You have to
fucking
keep in mind
best.
my background. That is a term of endearment where I come from. I like to think of myself as, I don't know, British or something.
Totally. Cunt has fully been reclaimed, and I love, especially in the queer community, like cunty. Oh,
So it's our secret little, but I think it is empowering. It's emboldening. It's funny. It's like TMI. It's all of those things, but also you have to earn your status.
totally. Totally. Yes. Yeah. I love it. I love
We're
it.
so canceled forever.
No way.
This is my retirement podcast.
Well, I mean, in Australia, you would get mad props for that because we love the word cunt.
That's what I was going for.
It's been like, it's a bogan thing. Like, we love calling each other like a fucking mad cunt or a good cunt or a bloody good cunt. And then also, like, in the queer scene now, like, cunty is such a compliment. Like, all the time, people are like, oh my God, your earrings are so cunty. I love it.
Yeah. Use this as an adjective, as
Hey, you're going to be canceled. For real.
I have a book called Cunt, and it's about the etymology and the like origins of the word cunt, and it was like ultimately very like empowering and feminist. And so you should read the book Cunt. It's by Inga. Oh yeah, you got it. Yeah, pretty cardinal feminist text from way back, but it's a fucking great book. And so I'm all about cunt. I've got a shirt that says smoke blunt, serve cunt. Because I also like smoking weed. So, we're all getting cancelled today.
That's going to pair nicely with your shirt, Drew. Okay, on that note.
Inappropriate. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Bring up my shirt.
Where do we order this? Oh my God.
I know. All right. Well, fuck yeah. Great chat, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, on that note, let's leave it there. I'm leaving it all in, baby. Cool. So great to chat with you guys. I highly recommend people check out Vibe Check. It's going to be in the show notes. I put it at the start of a lot of the podcast episodes just to plug it. Also would download the parent companion guide as well if you're an adult or, parent educator. And let's just disseminate this fucking awesome resource everywhere we can. It's so needed, and I really appreciate the hard work that you guys have put in and everyone that contributed to making it. It makes me feel better that it exists now and I have somewhere to funnel people and, just plant it in little places where people might stumble across it.
Thank you so much. It's always fun to talk to you.
You're the best.
Hey, me again. If you'd like to support the potty and you've already given it 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening on, I want to mention that you can buy some really dope merch from the website and get yourself a Labia Lounge tote, tee, togs. Yep, you heard that right. I even have Labia Lounge bathers. Or a cute fanny pack if that'd blow your hair back. So if fashion isn't your passion, though, you can donate to my Buy Me a Coffee donation page, which is actually called Buy Me a Soy Chai Latte, because I'll be the first to admit I'm a bit of a Melbourne cafe tosser like that. And yes, that is my coffee order. You can do a once-off donation or an ongoing membership and sponsor me for as little as 3 fat ones a month. And I also offer one-on-one coaching and online courses that'll help you level up your sex life and relationship with yourself and others in a really big way. So every bit helps, because it ain't cheap to put out a sweet podcast into the world every week out of my own pocket. So I will be undyingly grateful if you support me and my biz financially in any of these ways. And if you like, I'll even give you a mental BJ with my mind from the lounge itself. Saucy. And I'll pop the links in the show notes. Thank you. Later. And that's it, darling hearts. Thanks for stopping by the Labia Lounge. Your bum groove in the couch will be right where you left it, just waiting for you to sink back in for some more double L action next time. If you'd be a dear and subscribe, share this episode, or leave a review on iTunes, then you can pat yourself on the snatch, because that's a downright act of sex-positive feminist activism, and you'd be supporting my vision to educate, empower, demystify, and destigmatize with this here podcast. I'm also always open to feedback, topic ideas that you'd love to hear covered, questions or guest suggestions, so feel free to get in touch via my website or over on Insta. You can also send me in TMI stories to be shared anonymously on the pod. My handle is FreyaGraf_the Labia Lounge, if my account hasn't been deleted for being too sex positive, which, is always a possibility with censorship. But just in case the chronic censorship finally does obliterate my social channels, I'd highly recommend going and joining my mailing list and snagging yourself some fun freebies for the trouble at www.freyagraf.com/freebies. Anyway, later labial legends. See you next time.